I've been watching you. I've been watching you.
Hello, beautiful people. Let's discuss book stuff. In today's video, we're going to talk about something that took over book threads over the weekend. And it got the girlies in a tizzy. It got the people ready to throw hands. Okay, we were all ready to throw hands. So, if you are new here, hello, welcome. I'm Erica. Welcome to the Sky Life, and this is where I talk about all things bookish. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you're notified of the next video that I drop. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Yeah, so we're going to do a deep dive on Dr.Jenn. Okay, okay. Black readers, I need y'all to show up and show out for first time Black authors the way y'all show up for Tina Knowles, Common, and Big Sean at their book events. Non-celebs need y'all. Show bookstores and distributors that we care about the writing and not just celebrity. What is your first thought when you see that tweet or that thread? My bad. What is your first thought when you hear that? What is your first thought? Well, let me know in the comments what you first thought about it. But that is the thread that got everyone in a tizzy, in an uproar, ready to throw hands, ready to fight this past Saturday. Mind you, I woke up, got to, chill with my honey. We got to work in the garden, start battling these weeds, child. Weeds try to take over. So we did garden stuff. We were out in nature, we was having a good day. I come sit down, just want to see, what's happening on threads. Maybe another book I should add to my TBR or something, just keep my ears to the streets of what's going on. And I see everyone throwing hands figuratively. So that is by Jen M. Jackson. They have a PhD. Their pronouns are they, them, and doctor. So I want to make sure that I talk about them correctly in the correct fashion. So I think that was a mishap on a lot of people's, but I think whoever misgendered them, they were able to go back and correct themselves. So I kind of appreciate that, seeing that in the discussion that, despite what's going on, we're not trying to be, disrespectful, even if people do not agree. So yeah, they go by they, that they have pronouns they, them, doctor. They are non-binary lesbian, also an author of Black Women Taught Us. And it looks like they also have a podcast and things like that. So, they're an author, they're a professor, they have a podcast, and a lot of things involve the bookish space. So that's what they decided to tweet on the wee mornings of Saturday. Okay. Now, I'm going to just talk about a little bit more about people's reactions to this thread. It did not go over well. Spoiler alert. It did not go over well, and a lot of people had a lot of things to say. Now, based on that, I want to talk about their reactions to other people's reactions to their thread. And the kind of consensus I've kind of gotten was, they were talking about book readers and not book content creators. That was like the kind of first thing that went on. Now, you might be saying, what's the difference? Clearly, they were not very receptive to bookish content creators' responses because that's not who they were talking about. That's not their ministry. That's not who the intended audiences was for. So y'all not in it while y'all responding. So they were not really receptive of content creators' criticism. And I feel like this is kind of crazy because content creators are also book readers. Okay. You can be a Black reader and a content creator. It's not like you have to pick one or the other, especially if you are in the bookish space. 9 times out of 10, you are a reader. If you're a Black content creator in the bookish space, you might as well qualify to be a Black reader. So take me, for example. I don't really like the title of content creator. My husband calls me a content creator. I'm making peace with it. But before I became a content creator, I was and still am a Black reader. Because how else am I going to share my TBRs, my reviews? How else am I going to share like bookish events? Like, I have to be in that community to really be a content creator in that community, especially when it comes to the bookish space in particular. So I find it very kind of weird that they were somewhat dismissing and invalidating the content creators' criticism and opinion on it when there are also Black readers. I don't know why it was almost as if you couldn't be both. And that's crazy because if you really look at content creators and what they do in the bookish community, it extends beyond the internet. A good example of that, and it kind of intertwines into my next point that they made was, think about the Oathbound release day. Okay. I'm trying not to raise my blood pressure, so I'm going to try to come down with this. But think about the Oathbound release day. It was handled very differently than Onyx Storm release day, the new Hunger Games release day. I mean, it was handled very differently despite every book in the series being a New York Times best-selling. Made it the #1 New York Times best-selling series. Despite not having, as a Black book reader, I don't think Oathbound had as much support as some of these other people have, as some of these other authors have. So what did we do? Someone put out a thread saying, hey, we should come together. We should make it just as successful. It starts with us. Like, we need to reach out to the bookstores. We need to make this happen because obviously they're not going to make it happen. They're not. So who really took the lead on that? Book content creators. Black book content creators really reached out to local bookstores and said, hey, can we make this happen? Can we have a release day happen, a midnight release or a release day read-in? Or can we celebrate this release by this Black author? Because if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And who took the lead on that? Black bookish content creators did that. Point blank and the period. We would not have had a bookish event for Oathbound if I did not reach out to a local bookstore. It was just not going to happen. Plenty of people have reached out to Black-owned bookstores to have this event for Oathbound, a Black author, not a celebrity, to make it happen. And many of these events were successful. Many people found out about these events, in-person events, from bookish content creators. So to kind of dismiss and not really listen to the criticisms from content creators and say, hey, I'm only talking to Black readers here, I'm not talking to y'all, I think that kind of does it a disservice because a lot of things move and happen, because of content creators, because of our voice, because of our leadership, because we share things and create a community online, we're able to show up and do the same thing in person. So yeah, people have went to Black-owned bookstores to have a Black event for a Black author that was not a celebrity. So, and it's kind of hard for me to fathom how you could be a bookish content creator and not a reader at the same time. Honey, I guess, but they were not really receptive of that. Then the next thing came in as far as like, well, we're talking about how to keep Black bookstores open. Okay. My thing is, when I saw that thread, it very much felt like the weight of the responsibility was on the Black readers. Like, Black readers, we need to show up more, just like we do for celebrities. And I think it's very clear and obvious that celebrities are going to have a different turnout than an author. Like, if Rihanna came out with a coffee table book, people know her for her music. People know her for all these different things, Fenty Beauty, all these things. If she came out with a coffee table book and had a signing, of course, that turnout would be different than someone who is a new author. I mean, I feel like that's just common sense. It's going to be different, but I don't think it's on the Black reader's back to hold all the responsibility and all the blame of why turnouts don't happen at these Black bookstores. Now, my own personal experience, I wanted to host an Oathbound release day read-in. There is a Black bookstore, or was, I should say, a Black bookstore. To the author's point, the original poster's point, I don't think I don't think they're open anymore. The Black bookstore that was near me, now the closest one is about 2 hours away, but the one that was near me, I wanted to reach out to them. I wanted to see, hey, why not? Why can't we have this event at their bookstore? But they don't exist. Okay. And even when they did exist, and almost you didn't know, like, are you really having events there? Are you having these new releases there? Are you having even indie books? Because there's a lot of indie books by Black authors that I would love to just kind of go in store and get. And I feel like Black bookstores, that would have been a perfect opportunity to have Black indie authors stocked in your shelves. And even like the major ones too. Why not have that available? Because I can't borrow the indie bookstore from my library. My library is not going to have that. And if it's not directly through the indie author themselves, my other option is through Amazon, who has a chokehold on all these indie authors. So that's not on my back of why this Black store closed, right? I would love to support, I would love to do all these things, but it's not the Black reader's responsibility. It's not their weight to bear. And there's a lot of reasons too. The fact that we even had to advocate for an Oathbound release day read-in or any type of events associated with it. Granted, they didn't even have like signage or like a cardboard print up of the book. Now, when you look at Powerless and all these other people, which I think they're on the same publisher, I'm like, why do you get a book printout and I don't even get a sign with Bree and Nick and Sell on it? I'm lucky if I get a table in the front. That's not on me, okay? Because the readers show up and they do what they need to do consistently and they go over and beyond. And that's why that series was a New York Times best-selling series, period. You can't do that without readers. So I kind of feel like that thread was kind of like, are we on the same algorithm? Are we what are we saying? There has to be more reason of why Black bookstores are closing, and that's not because Black readers aren't showing up. Are these Black bookstores having these events for Black readers to show up? Let's be clear. And it's not just Black readers, it's readers in general. But are they amplifying Black voices in the same way? And collaborating with content creators so the word can get out, so people can go there and shop and support. And you don't have to just show up in person to support a bookstore. There are things like bookshop.org and Libro FM that I like to be a part of because you can select what bookstores you want to support with your purchase online. Like I said, I don't have a Black bookstore anymore really close to me. The closest one is now 2 hours away. But if I want to support that bookstore, I can do that online. Instead of going to Amazon, I could go to bookshop.org. I could select the bookstore I want to support. I could do all these things. And in fact, that bookstore actually sent me a text not too long ago talking about an event they were actually having. And if I was closer, I would go there. I would get there. But it's kind of, I don't know, insane to just think that we're like, why wouldn't readers, Black readers specifically, why wouldn't we show up to support a Black bookstore when we already are amplifying and elevating all these unknown or needs to be known indie Black authors? If we're already doing that, which they are, I mean, I find out about new indie Black authors all the time on my algorithms. I don't know what they are talking about, but if we're doing that, why wouldn't we also show up to events in the Black bookstores? Why wouldn't we also shop there? Why would we support Black authors and not Black bookstores? So I don't think that's what the problem is here. Nah. So yeah, that really got the girls in a tizzy, got the people ready to nuck if you buck, but that's really what was happening. And the saga continues even to this day. All I want to say is it's not always on just Black people in general. I feel like we get it from every side, like always feeling like we're not doing enough when if you really look at it, we're usually going over and beyond in a lot of different areas of our life, whether that's work, education, relationships, even now in our hobbies. So I think it's really unfair to say, hey, we need it's like that thread was saying, like, we don't show up enough and we need to show up when really maybe we need to talk about to the marketers, maybe we need to talk to the publishers because there's obviously inherent racism through it all that we still face and try to overcome. So I don't think it's really on the reader's back because of why Black bookstores are closing. I think that is a more layered discussion and it shouldn't just be placed on us. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on all of this going on, child. Now people don't want to read their book. Well, sometimes people think, ruffling feathers or rage baiting is the way to go. And I think the doctor even said like they're neurospicy, which means they're neurodivergent. But regardless, there's a lot of neurodivergent people in the world. I think we all got a little touch of something. And that does not mean you should just get a pass. I think you should be able to be receptive to what people are saying, because all these people cannot be wrong. All these people cannot be wrong, and just kind of reconsider, maybe like, hey, your message maybe got lost in the delivery. Not saying that your message was wrong, because I think what they're trying to say is we have to come together and figure out how can we keep Black bookstores open. But if your message got lost in delivery, it didn't do what it intended to do. So neurospicy or not, child, you got to be able to look at it and say, okay, whoa, I didn't mean it like that. Sorry, it came off like that. This is what I meant to say. Instead of like standing 10 toes down and like, we're the problem. I don't know. Anyways, let me know your comments and your thoughts down below. Make sure you like the video if you did. And don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, peace.